In this episode of GYDA Talks, Robert talks to John Readman. John has just set up disruptive marketing agency Modo25 after successfully selling his agency Summit. With a healthy 20 plus years in the digital industry, the time has come for a new venture after seeing a huge gap in the market.
Hello and welcome to the GYDA Grow Your Digital Agency Initiative Talks. And today I'm absolutely delighted that I've got John Readman with me. John, fascinating character, fascinating history, and has recently set up Modo25, which is a bit of a disruptive agency as far as I'm concerned. And I'm absolutely delighted to have you on the show. Hello, John.
Hello.
Hi, and so just for a kickoff, would you just like to introduce yourself to us? Tell us what are the few key things we need to know about you?
Yeah, so I'm a Leo.
Bad news. My wife's a Leo, so that's really bad news.
Yorkshire born and bred, and I've been working in the sort of digital marketing and advertising technology space for the last 20 odd years, and recently set up Modo25 back in September.
So what's the back history to Modo25? Just give us a potted history so we can understand how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I've been involved in lots of different, well, I suppose the potted history would be, many moons ago I worked for a business called QAS, which was the company that gave you the postcode to an address, and at the time that was revolutionary. So, and then I went from there into email and database marketing. So I sort of went from the letterbox to the inbox, and then I suppose the Google search box, because I then got involved in search. So, and in between that, after exiting one particular agency, Search Laboratory, I set up a cycling holiday company as well, which I also still own, and we do lots of charity bike rides all over the world, and raise lots of money to help an orphanage in Uganda called One More Child. And we launched Modo25 in September after I left Summit, which we successfully sold to the TCC Group. And really, I believe there's a gap in the market, specifically around giving brands a choice over whether or not I believe they've currently got two choices. So they do it either with an agency or they do it in-house. And both of those have their positives and their negatives. And we are creating a third option, which is supported in-housing. So we believe we've got the best of both, and that's sort of what we're going to market with at the moment.
So I think that's awesome, because every agency I talk to is like, so yeah, oh, grumble. Oh, someone else is just in-house. They've just taken the work away from us. We were doing such fine work for them, and we were charging them, and whatever the number is, and now they've taken it away, snatched it away from us. So I totally get that. So just talk through a bit more about what you're doing. You're just taking business.
No, so I'll give you an example client. So we've got a high street retailer who's a client, has 80 plus stores, and we're taking them on a journey to in-house over a 12-month period. So initially we'll go in and set the strategy, set the best practice. We'll provide them with some forecasts from all their digital channels. And I suppose part of that I'll come on to talk about maybe later if you're interested, is we're building a forecasting platform which is actually called Bosco. And actually that's the first time anybody's heard that name. So this is an exclusive for your podcast. We're officially launching it at the Digital City Expo in March. But I'll come back to that. That's going to be like this forecasting platform that we're going to build. But we'll write a strategy. We will then help them understand and establish what team members' skill sets they've got, what's they're missing, what they need, and then we will take them on a journey. And initially, we will do the execution. We will set everything up to what we believe are the best practices, and then over a period of 6-12 months, we will help them recruit, train, and onboard the team to in-house that work, and then we will provide a support service ongoing in terms of monthly audits, monthly reporting, and then if they need holiday cover or that somebody phones in sick or they leave, we will have set everything up within our best practice so we can just dive in. So we will always be involved in the background. So if you're a business owner and you're worried about going in-house because you're not sure if you can recruit or manage or know whether or not they're doing a good job, we're going to be sort of remotely keeping an eye on it in the background, almost like an insurance policy.
So is this a kind of a one-size-fits-all package, or a platinum, silver, gold thing, or is it a bespoke thing? How's it
I'm trying to come up with a better than bronze, silver, gold, but yeah, there is that, and it depends on how much support. So if you're a retailer, you might not necessarily have the funds to have the sort of full-time data scientists to analyze all your data. So we've got a lot of the senior strategy level value add people, but we won't have the execution people. So we expect our clients to have the execution people, but we can still come in and go, right, actually, there's an opportunity over here in this channel. You should really look at it. Here's the data that backs that up. Here's how you could approach that campaign. So, or they could just have the reporting and support service. So there is a tiered level of support depending on what your business requires. But I sort of have a view that over time, there's too much data. Yeah. People don't know which data is the actual right metrics to drive their business. So we need to take the board on an education of understanding which metrics are actually going to drive their business, help them understand that, and then take their teams on a journey so they can actually make the better decisions for their business and take control of their own destiny. And I think people are still confused and frustrated around the different types of the way agencies charge. Sometimes there's people complaining about a lack of transparency, especially if you look at recent discussions around programmatic and all these different things. It's all a bit murky, and we're just going to, we did some training with this retailer last week, and our head of PPC went in, trained the CEO of the business how to go into AdWords and check when was the last time we checked and did anything in the account, right? So we're teaching them how to check that we're actually doing our job properly. And he was like, this is brilliant. I could have done this with my last agency. I said, well, you could have done, but you didn't know which button to press. So, yeah, some people aren't going to like what we're doing, I don't think.
So am I right in thinking that your customer journey is, we've had an agency, we kind of feel like we're paying too much. Maybe we feel like we're not getting value. Maybe we've been with them for 2 or 3 years and like the shine is off it. There's pressure to do stuff more cheaply. We know that we can buy people in at an hour rate less than the agency are charging us. We feel like we're employing via the agency digit monkeys that we know they're only paying 22,000 quid a year for, but somehow it seems to be the equivalent of 40 or 50,000 to us by the time it gets to us. And that they've had enough of an agency, and that they want to in-house, but they don't know how to do it. Or maybe they've tried in-housing and they failed.
I think it's a bit of both. I've got both those examples. We've got a client who does most things in-house, but they've always been under the impression that what the agencies was doing was voodoo and magic, and they didn't really understand what they were doing. And I suppose what we're trying to do is demystify that and go, look, yeah, it is complicated, but you can learn how to do it. It's not beyond the wit of man. There's lots and lots of people now out there who can learn paid search or programmatic or SEO. And I think over time as well, I think it would be fair to say, Robert, the internet's not a fad, and it's not going away.
I think it's here to stay.
I'm backing it. This is hopefully going to be all right. But I think the point there is, before it was like, well, we're not really sure if this is going to be a big channel for us, so we'll do it with an agency. And then it sort of just stayed with the agency. And then it's also sort of become Google business as usual. And everybody just spending good money with Google or Facebook. And a lot of the agencies have got in bed with Google. And now when you go see your agency, can they actually make an objective decision to spend your money? Because actually they're also reselling Google's products.
Yeah.
Although I obviously can't encourage you to talk badly about Google, because you're very good friends with Google. But
well, I think there is a real issue about platforms, and that's the piece that everyone's facing, which is, all the platforms are being very friendly because they're basically advertising giants who want people to advertise through platform 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. There's a lot of confusion for client side about what gives best value for money if you've got an old or a young demographic, or it's sporting or whatever it is, because there's a lot of noise out there, versus traditional, versus, dare I say, picking up the phone and talking to people. And yeah, you get agencies who are signed up absolutely 100% to working with platform A, and they will sell platform A, a bit like you go to a Ford dealership or you go to a Tesla dealership, who's going to tell you that theirs is the only one that you can actually do. So what you're doing is you're a bit more
because we're agnostic.
Agnostic, that's the word.
Our view is, and I suppose all the agency owners listening to this will recall this story. Years ago, Google used to wine and dine the agency owners, and you get the jollies, and that'd be great fun. And now they're whining and dining the end client, and they're phoning up your clients, and they're saying, actually, you don't really need your agency. We'll help you manage the campaign. We've got this amazing thing called smart bidding or smart shopping, and it's our AI platform, and you don't need to pay your agency. And whether or not you agree with that or not but they're now whining and dining the agencies, because the clients, not the agents, so that when the bill comes up at the boardroom, the CEO's just come back from Mountain View, and he's, oh no, that's fine, we'll keep spending with Google, that's great, I've had a great time in Mountain View. And they're now worried about Amazon and Facebook, and they need to own the relationship with the end customer. Right? There's hundreds of account managers now at Google who all have relationships directly with the end customer. And when we were at Summit, my previous business, our account management, because we refused to sell the Google stack, we went from being one of the premium Google accounts, billing tens and tens of millions of pounds worth of ad spend, and having our own dedicated account manager based in Manchester, to being based with someone on the phone in Ireland. Right? We weren't important anymore. They were going straight to our biggest clients and telling them what we were doing wasn't right. So I think the world is changing, and I think what we want to do is help our clients. We're going to build a technology platform that will help our clients understand which channel will give them the best returns and where the headroom is. So, and it'll be across everything. So the big question I've got is, what opportunity does TikTok pose for people? Right? And if we're all honest, nobody really knows. But actually,
you're looking at all the platforms. You're saying, let's do an audit. Where are we now? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? If this is what our client's trying to achieve, then our algorithm mushes it all up, and out pops, you need 30% on Facebook, 10% on Bing, 5%.
So it'll take into account some historical data you've got. Maybe that's data, maybe that's Facebook data, and we can learn from that how your customers behave, what audiences work for you, what products sell, what your conversion rates are, and then we can suck in other data that we've got to go, well, the opportunity on Amazon is here, or the opportunity on Instagram, or the opportunity on Pinterest. And it's not really in a lot of people's interest to do that, or it's hard. And I think because we're coming at this with a complete blank piece of paper to ultimately demystify people's numbers and say, right, actually, what the job you're asking us to do is help you make money from the internet, not help you spend more money with Google, right? Or Facebook or whoever. So, and I think the CPCs are getting more expensive. Everybody's finding it frustrating. It's getting more and more competitive. It's getting hard. And again, if you can control some of that in-house, you can respond quicker. You've got the numbers at your fingertips, and you can actually see what's going on. So it's a combination of services and software.
And will you be expanding into brand, or are you going to just stick mainly on performance?
So most of we're going to mainly stick on performance, because we're a bunch of clever maths people. But we will be going into that's it. But we are doing, I think, other things like Ad Smart TV, right? So everybody thinks TV is really complicated and hard, but it doesn't have to be. Or digital out of home. Where's the opportunity in digital out of home, and how does all that fit together, and how does that compare to your paid? And I think people often go, agencies go, well, I'll tell you what, we'll get a test budget and we'll do that. What we're saying is, well, actually, it's not a test budget. If you spend X in this channel, we believe you'll get this return. Right? So it's a more predictable, certain outcome for the brands and the retailers. We are doing content and SEO, because I also think we had a client the other day, and they can remain nameless, who goes, oh, we've done SEO now. We've done it. And I said, that's a bit like saying you got fit and you stopped going to the gym.
Yeah.
You can't just get fit and then go back to the way you used to live. You've got to change your lifestyle. So it's SEO, as I'm sure everybody knows, it's a constant ongoing thing. You can't just do it and stop. So I do still believe that's a well underserviced market still, because that again had a bad reputation. People were doing loads of dodgy stuff. People just then stopped doing it. But I still think there's huge gains. And again, if you can I want to build this system. Part of our system will go, well, actually, if you look what you're paying for on PPC and how much you're paying a click, if you looked at position 1 on Google and the traffic that got you, and actually, if you invested this over 6 months, you're likely to get close to that position. And that over time is going to give you much better returns. But as we know, Google's pushing all the paid ads down, so it's the number of click-throughs you get from your organic is lower. But that's still a more sustainable future for these brands.
There's certainly something going on where agencies are saying, actually, if you just give us a bit more time to do the clever thinking, we can get better results for you, probably from less money. In other words, they're not just saying we need
yeah, and I think
percent of ad spend.
Yeah, and if you phone up Google and say, right, what would you recommend we do? They will say, oh, well, I think you need to spend more money.
Yeah.
There's more traffic out there. Oh, have you seen our Market Explorer tool, and you can expand all over the world? So I do think agencies are being asked to be more efficient, and they're asked. And I think one of the things we actually had a meeting about yesterday. I think some of our biggest customers for our technology might well be agencies, because what will happen is we'll give this to some clients. That will cause them to challenge the thinking of their agency or their in-house team, and then the agency will be on the phone going, which Muppet gave our client that information? What are you doing, Redman? And then hopefully I actually think we could help agencies have better meetings, get more services from their clients across more platforms. And again, everybody's got the capability to do this in a one-off way with a load of clever people. But it's quite hard maths and it's a one-off exercise. What we want to do is build a platform where you just press a button. So that's the plan.
And I think the interesting thing for me, we've recently been doing the proposition with a couple of agencies, and they just stare at the wall saying, so why should people buy from you when they could buy from the competition? We've got lots of clever people. Yeah. We've got lots of qualifications. Good. We've got ping pong tables. Is that useful? Beanbag.
Yeah. Slide.
Drinks on a Friday night. But from the client point of view, it is so beige and dull and boring and grey and average and mediocre, because so few agencies are actually able to give the client what the client wants, which is, I'm the client and I want more clients. I want more customers. I want more paying customers paying more, and I want to be buying these products. Can you help me do that? And I think there's this kind of disconnect between we're here to sell the bodies of our digit monkeys, or we're here to.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Robert. And I think what's happened is because everybody's got experts at Google and now more recently Facebook, that's actually all they know how to sell. And I do think, and I don't know, I've been thinking about this a lot. I think the last 10 years has actually taken a lot of the creative thinking out of digital marketing. And actually, is it not just marketing executed in the digital world? And actually, the opportunity here could actually be just to do things slightly differently, because everybody's competing on shopping for the same click, the same CPC. Yeah, you can argue, well, you've got better pricing, promotion, and proposition, but there might be easier ways to find your new customers at a lower cost. But everybody's sticking with it's a bit like IBM, isn't it? Nobody got fired for buying IBM. Nobody's going to get fired for buying Google traffic. It's just the norm now. But actually, is there a different way to get your customers? And I think brands and agencies should be asking that question.
And I think they are. And I think clients are unhappy with this status quo. And I think that agencies more and more are kind of feeling it's a bit like last year, this year. It feels a bit like Groundhog Day in terms of we just got to sell more bodies in more time, as opposed to what the heck is it that clients really want? And clients really want to sell more
product. Yeah.
Like, let's figure out with the client, in the client's boardroom, how we can sell more mice or lights or whatever it is, as opposed to just, because otherwise you go down the food chain. You go down the food chain to being a supplier. Once you go down to being a supplier, they might as well buy the stuff from Bangalore.
It just becomes a transactional relationship where you're sending the monthly report. They think you've only done a bit of work just before the call, and then it's very easy to cut you off. And I think that's because and also it's, if you only do one or two disciplines, maybe Google, Facebook, maybe a bit of SEO, was actually, as you so rightly said, our job should be to help our clients get more customers from digital, full stop. It's not just from Google or Facebook. So, I think there's opportunities out there for everybody.
Okay, brilliant. Let's move on because there's so much to talk about. So we understand what you do, and I love it. I love the disruptive nature of it. I can see that kind of wry smile on your face. Hey, some people will not be happy with what I'm saying. Ha 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 ha. And some people will be demonstrably furious that you are creating that third way, which is great. The industry needs a bit of liveliness. How do you, I mean, we talked about this over breakfast a while ago, but I'd be really fascinated to understand how you acquire clients, because you're a startup. You're a funded startup, yeah. So you're going from a standing start, first laptop, first office, first whiteboard. How have you gone about getting clients?
Okay, so I'm quite old school. It's no big secret. We're funded by the founder of Skyscanner. So he's a very good friend of mine. As all good stories should start, we were drunk in a ski resort.
I've just come back from a ski resort.
So I was drunk in a ski resort, chatting to him about my vision of disruption, and he goes, "Oh, I love that. A bit of disruptive technology, shake up the industry a bit. Right, I'm in. What do we need to do?" So that conversation sort of evolved. I managed to attract a former colleague of mine who was one of the best guys I've ever worked with, Mike Longfellow. He was the client services director of Enjoy, but also an exceptional salesperson. And he historically had been trained to sell software, right? So the proper solution sell. And then also we got Abby Liddell, who used to be the client services director of Epiphany. And then she was part of the management team that sold that to J-Wing. And then she'd finished her own out and actually was sort of in retirement, I suppose, and I managed to drag her out of retirement, and she's going to run the operations. And I think one of the lessons I learned at Search Labs and how we managed to scale Search Labs so quickly was get your operational procedure sorted. And Abby, having been client services director at Epiphany, and knows how to scale a business, and she can come in. So we had the, I suppose, luxury of having some funding so we could recruit some expensive, sensible people. But then employees, so I was employee number one, these guys were 2 and 3, but employee who started on the same day, so all 4 of us started on the same day, and the 4th person was a salesperson. Right, so we haven't actually got any practitioners at this point. We just got on the phones.
Yeah.
So we started identifying my network of people who I think this story might resonate with. And we started identifying target clients. So if I want to work with nice people, right? I always find it amazing when agencies moan about their clients. So, well, you sign them up, right? Why did you sign them up?
Get the clients you deserve, don't you?
Go choose the right. Don't go for the pitch. Don't go for the meeting. So we started identifying clients that we would like to work with that have got ambition, their growth, and all these different criteria that we came up. We got them on the whiteboard. Just like, this is our perfect client. We then profiled them on LinkedIn. We used loads of different bits of software to find out about these people. Different ways to get hold of their numbers, their email addresses, and then we started contacting them. But it was like the phone. So
the phone.
Oh yeah, John Buckley, Irish, cheeky chappy, graduate straight out of uni. I actually met him at a digital entrepreneurs event in London.
Yeah.
And he'd come over from Dublin after graduating on the off chance there might be a spare seat at this do. And if not, he was just going to go out in London. And I sort of liked his style, liked his approach, and I gave him, at the time it was my Ride 25 cycling holiday card, I said, I might have a job for you in the future. Just give us a call. And I thought, I never knew if I'd hear from him. And he phoned me up and he goes, I don't really like cycling. What job did you have in mind? I said, I'm doing this new startup and I need a real driven sales guy who's got tenacity and ambition. So yeah, unusual for a business to just recruit a salesperson straight away. And we're actually just about to recruit our second salesperson. And we're at 16 people now. And we now have the clever practitioners. We've got 2 paid search, we've got 2 SEO, we've got 2 data scientists, we've got 3 dev to build the tech, and we've got we've got the people now. But
so how do you just keep on that thing about people? So I get you've got your diary, you open your black book, start at the beginning, work your way to the end, ask everyone if they know anyone you should be talking to.
But we also went cold. We also went cold into people. So there's the retailer I was talking about before who was signed up, is we identified them as someone we believed was right for in-housing. They were relatively local to us. They were privately owned and had recently put out a statement that they were gunning for digital growth. So John phoned up the CEO and said, I think you need to take control of this and bring it in-house. And I was doing some training with him. I was doing cold call training with him. And I said, right, this is what you've got to say. This is how it's going to go. And he did exactly what I said. And he got the meeting. I goes, that's it. Just keep doing that. And I think it was more luck than judgment. And then we went for the meeting and they signed up as a client. So then they don't all go like that. But I think the problem is if you don't pick up the phone, you won't find out. The other thing we've been doing, which again is a bit different, is we do a lot on LinkedIn, but also recently we've been recording videos and sending them to people.
Like Loom videos, yeah?
And we use a thing called Dub, this little piece of software called Dub, and you can see if they view it and open it, and you can, and it's just like, how many emails have you deleted today without reading? Right? People don't, like hundreds, and you don't answer your phone now unless you know who it's from.
Yeah.
Like you screen it, and then you probably don't even listen to the voicemail anymore.
Yeah.
So how can we get people's attention? And we're actually just about to plan a direct mail campaign. Right? Because when was the last time you got some useful, interesting, insightful piece of literature? And everybody talks about cost of sale. I was talking about this with a client today. They're like, an acceptable cost of sale, John, for these products, this product, £50. I said, wow, that's a lot. So you're willing to spend £50 on media to get these clients? And I'm like, yeah. I said, you might as well send them a bottle of wine.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what we do. We've just done a campaign here. We've done a couple of campaigns. And the last one was on January the 5th. We went into Hotel du Chocolat and we bought, I don't know, 200 quid's worth of, would be 10 quid a packet they're selling for £1 because they were
Christmas stuff. Yeah.
And then we've been sending them out, and you, at a minimum, people say, "Oh, thank you very much for the chocolates. Why did you send them to me?" And, well, let's have a conversation and talk about it. And there's an agency I know up in Middlesbrough I met. And they, when they set up, they had, I think, 5 people and 3 telesales people. And I was going, this is so wrong for an agency to have 3 telesales people. How on earth does that work? Well, the answer is, on Monday we look up the numbers, on Tuesday and Wednesday we phone them, then we book them in on Thursday and Friday for discovery calls, close them on a Friday, and then start again the next week. And it works. I mean, it's a different type of client. The client who's willing to take a call from telesales is obviously very different from someone who'll take a call from managing director, is different from someone who'll, ask his mentor or his coach or his accountant who he should be talking to. But it doesn't, why digital agencies, why agencies think they have to approach people with an email and think that a nice email and a nice website will be the way to...
And I also think, Robert, there's a lot of agencies still in this world where they're waiting to be invited to pitch. And so I had this conversation with them, and they can remain named. It's a former director of another business I used to work for, and he goes, well, where's the brief, John, for the meeting? I goes, well, there isn't a brief, because I phoned them up and told them we needed to go see them. Well, I'm not going unless there's a brief. He goes, no. Well, they don't even know they've got a problem yet, but we're going to go in and we're going to ask them loads of questions. They might think they've got a mild cold, but by the time they leave, they're going to be totally... Fortunately, we've got the antidote right in our pocket, and that's what it is. And I've come very much from a software solution sales background, where you create the need, then you fulfill the need. But I do still think there's a lot of agencies that go, well, we've got to wait for a brief, or we've got to wait for the tender document, or we've got to wait for the pitch. And it's like, well, go and create your own destiny. So I very much come at it from a sales point of view, really.
My first job was in Petticoat Lane, and I used to stand at the back of the audience and put my hand up and go, I'll buy 3, and run to the front. Hand over my money, go around the back, I'll buy 2. And so I'm not
great demand, yeah.
Not casting dispersions on my reputation, but I think there is a salesy thing that some of us have more than others. So, okay, so talk to me about 4-day weeks. I mean, half the world must think you're a total.
Well, this is Johnny. I saw Johnny Toes speak at an event, digital. I think it was a agency hackers event or something, and he was talking about his 4-day week, and they'd implemented it, and what went well and what didn't go well. And I had a chat with him about it, and I thought, I like spending time with my family, and I've got things I want to do. And actually, if you think about the week before you go on a holiday, and you've got a lot to do, you normally get it done. Well, what if we approached every week like that? Okay, so our 4-day week isn't some sort of socialist, let's do less work and get paid more movement, right? We just need to be clear about that. We genuinely believe, this might sound a bit overconfident and arrogant, but we believe with our systems, processes, people, automation, and approach, that we can get as much done in 4 days. We do a bit of an extended day each day. We can get as much done in those 4 days as a normal agency could get done in 5. And if the deal, the contract I've got with the team is you have a set of outcomes to do for your clients each week, or you've got a set of objectives for your role. If you've done your objectives by the end of the day on Thursday, then great, you can have Friday off. If you haven't, then you've got to work out why not and get on with it and do the right thing for the client. And we are going to have a cover system where some people maybe work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So clients will expect us to answer the phone on a Friday.
So does that mean that whereas in the old days you might have taken me out for a 3-hour lunch, you'll now take me out for a sandwich and we'll be kicked out within 20 minutes? Does it mean that in terms of meetings in-house, what was a 40-minute meeting, you stop messing around with?
So I've read up a lot about this. So there's a lot. I'm not the only madman in the world doing this. There's a lot of other people doing it. So we start our meetings on the 5 past the hour, right?
Yeah.
People turn up on time. There's less ritual and cliche, and you just get on with it. All our meetings all internal meetings and client meetings have to have an agenda.
Yeah.
Right. And it has to be clear why you've been invited to that meeting. If you don't think you need to be in the meeting, you can just decline it.
Yeah.
If you're in a meeting and you think it's a waste of your life, you politely say, sorry, this isn't a good use of my time. You get up and walk out. And we're just really brutal with our time. And you're not allowed meetings over half an hour and also you're not allowed meetings with more than 6 people in. Right? Why do you need to have half the company all sat round? They can disseminate the information. So we all hold each other accountable to that. It's different if you've got client meetings and there's certain things we can't control. And then the other bit, which I want to move fast. So every meeting we have to make a decision. And the decision is not let's have another meeting. Yeah. Right? What we care about, let's do that one or that one, and let's get on with it. Let's document it. Who's doing it? When are we doing it? What's the deadline? Let's just crack on. Because there's so many people having meetings about meetings and stuff never gets done. So yeah, we're trying to move fast, but I think so everybody today is great. We had a team night out yesterday. We took them all out for a curry in the evening, had a few beers, and then suddenly it's like the Friday feeling in the office today.
Yeah.
Everybody's slightly hungover, but they think, hang on, I've got tomorrow off.
So is that the only hook to keep your staff to stay with you, or are there other? I mean,
we're doing it. So I want to reinvent work, right? And I've got a lot of views about. Everybody moans about millennials, right? Oh, the blue millennials, this, that, and the other. They don't want to do any work, and I'm like, well, maybe we're just approaching this in the wrong way, right? So day one for one of ours, so we had 2 guys start on Monday. And when they arrived, they both had a brand new MacBook Air, they had blues on the desk, they had the business cards, they had the t-shirt, they had a name mug, we were expecting them, they had a list of an agenda for the first full week, and it was like, yeah, everything works. It's really simple things. But I heard a story of someone gone to work, quite a big company today, it was 3 days before they even got a computer, and then that was a loan computer. What a waste of time. So we're going to create this environment where people can thrive. So we also offer fully flexible working. We give them the right kit. So like we're doing now on Zoom, if you've got the right kit, you can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? We've got one of our data scientists works in a WeWork in Melbourne. We've got 3 devs in Prague. We've got some of the team in an office in London. We've got most of our team in Leeds. And the other bit, which has upset a few people locally in Yorkshire, is we're paying London wages in Leeds. Right, so we pay a London-weighted salary, irrespective of where you're based. So if you work in Prague or Melbourne, you get the equivalent of the London weighting, and you work 4 days a week. And you still get your normal 23 days holiday and your bank holidays and everything else. We also do full healthcare. Everybody gets an Apple Watch. Yeah, we do. I've looked at I'm not just giving benefits away for the sake of it. What I want to try and do is what benefits will people actually value. So we do the gym membership, we do all those sorts of things.
But does that imply that you're charging fees that can accommodate looking after your staff so well? I mean, I'm not disputing the value.
Well, we charge on, and again, this is, I don't want to give all my secrets away, but, and again, some agency owners will just think I'm mental. We charge on an outcome basis, and we charge every client is on a performance model. So I'll agree a forecast with our client. If we hit that forecast, you'll pay me X. If we miss that forecast, you'll pay me less than X. If we go more than that, you'll pay me more than X. And the client's like, well, I'm in. And then if we can do that in 2 days and hit X, then great. If we have to do it in 20 days, then we need to get more efficient.
I stood up in front of an audience of PPC people about 3 years ago and said, my cost of, I can't remember what the numbers are now, but it's my cost of customer acquisition to get to a meeting, I get a 1 in 2 hit rate. My cost of customer acquisition in terms of getting a meeting is 500 quid. So anyone in the room who can get me a meeting for less than 500 quid, I'm in. Yeah. And I'll buy as many as you can deliver. And I thought what would happen is that people would come rushing up to me saying, what, 500 quid for a meeting? How hard can that be? It's like 2 quid a click, 250 clicks. God, yeah, money for old rope. Nobody came forward. And then later on in the day, I said, I don't know if you recall earlier on, I had some work. This is bottomless, this work. If I can get 495 for a meeting, I'll pay for it. I'll do 10 meetings a week if you can give me that. Come on up afterwards. And everyone shied away from it. Well, there might be some risk involved.
Yeah, so I think it is about, so to answer your question, I don't believe our models are going to be more expensive, because at the end of the day, we're not going to be employing lots of execution people.
Yeah.
Right? The clients are going to be doing the majority of the execution, and we're going to have strategy people doing small amounts of work on lots and lots of clients, and there's going to be a huge amount of software to automate a lot of this, and automate the reporting, automate the health checking, we're going to have our predictive platform called Bosco. And yeah, it's, I suppose the other big thing we're doing, Robert, about you saying, is it just about the 4-day week? So Modo25, yeah. Modo is actually the name of a 9-year-old orphan who lives in a Ugandan orphanage in Jinja, right? And we're going to give a percentage of our profit to that orphanage. And she represents 280 other children that we're helping clothe, feed, educate, and keep off the streets. And it's amazing how a small amount of money can go a huge way in Uganda. And then where we came up with the name for the platform, Bosco is actually the guy who runs the orphanage. And he's providing the vision and the clarity and the learning for Modo. And it's suddenly become a thing.
Yeah, it's lovely.
And then everybody comes to work, and it's like, I'm not being funny, and I make no apologies to other agency owners. This. Nobody's coming to work to make you rich. Like, nobody wants to come to work to make John Readman wealthy. They want to feel valued. They want to do some challenging, interesting tasks. maybe under their own timescales that fits in with the company requirement, but actually they want to feel part of something that's got a slightly bigger purpose. And I think the days of coming to work just to make the shareholders some money are numbered. And if you don't think differently about how your business is structured and what you stand for, you're going to fall by the wayside.
That's great. I mean, I do love that, because I do think there's a lip service paid to corporate social responsibility, mindfulness, the community, giving back. And I'm not saying there aren't people who are genuinely committed and involved in making that stuff happen. I just think that there's a kind of a sense that we ought to be seen to be.
Well, it's a picture for the website, or we put it in the front of the annual report or whatever. But I'm a long-term vision, and people think I'm mad now. So we're educating these kids, they're getting their GCSEs, they're getting their A-levels, and then they can't get a job, and then they end up selling food on the side of the corner, but they've got A-levels. You think, well, what if we could create a Modo25 delivery centre in Ginger and then give all these kids a job?
Yeah.
And then that'd be super cool, right? We could change the whole village and town, but then what a great opportunity to send a load of our guys over there to go and train them, right? Experience in Uganda for 6 months. That'd be amazing. So we've got this sort of, and that's probably a 3 or 5 year plan. And I don't know whether we'll get them to speak good enough English or if they'll IT literate enough, but I think we've got to have a go.
I love it.
Because they're bright people, and they're only on 1 hour time zone difference.
Yeah.
And they're very motivated and capable.
Love it. I just love it. A couple of questions, but I think we kind of half answered them, but I'd still like to ask them. The first one is, because you're not an average agency owner, but but for the average agency owner, what do you think the biggest day-to-day challenges are?
I would say recruiting, retaining your people, especially in the South. People jump around for a couple of grand, and it's like this merry-go-round. So you've got to think differently about how you attract and retain the best people. So I think people is a big challenge. And then I suppose is, how do you constantly ensure that you are delivering above and beyond for your clients, and it just doesn't become BAU, right? Business as usual, right? Oh, this is just BAU, and I will just send them the report. We'll go do the QBR. We'll go do this. We'll go do that, and it becomes very transactional. And I think as you're growing, and I've been in these agencies, as you're growing your agency, the leaders get more and more detracted from the clients.
Yeah.
And the client bought into you or whoever was the visionary who did the pitch, and then the work's been delivered by the grad. And actually, that really frustrates. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons people churn, because they think, well, that's not quite what I bought. And actually, I keep getting these invoices, and I don't really know what I'm getting. So I think it's be more proactive with your clients when they don't phone your clients when they're not expecting you to phone them, when actually you're not trying to sell them something. And I think people miss that. And I think because we're all busy being busy. So I think that's a challenge. And people, I'd say, is the big one. I also think there's so many different channels now. And I think a lot of the agencies are still just focusing on Google and Facebook. Again, if they're not exploring all the alternatives, they're going to find it harder and harder to compete.
Which kind of leads on to the next question, really, which is, the agency of 2 years' time. I mean, this, with the environment, the platforms, customer taste, rebellion extinction, Brexit, Trump, I mean, with all this massive stuff moving around, it's really hard for agencies to imagine what their agency would be like in 2 or 3 years' time, because all we know is it's almost certainly not going to be like it is now. So how are you, and how should agencies try and deal with just not knowing what their business model will be, and just not knowing what platforms they'll be using?
I suppose it's the way I would look at that, and it is like, Well, our responsibility and our promise to our clients is we're going to be helping them attract more customers. And I even had a conversation with the management team yesterday going, well, do we actually want to be digital, or do we just want to be marketing? And actually, if you look at the opportunities in digital print, if you look at the opportunities in out of home and all these other things that are coming along, actually is our job marketing, but mainly in a digital world. And I think if we always put our customers' requirements front and center, I think, well, our job is to help them get more customers. And actually, we need to be going to the events, reading the literature, understanding, right, what's coming next. So when Alibaba comes from China and takes on Amazon, what are we going to do? Do we have a plan? Right? What happens when our client asks us about what's your Alibaba plan? And everybody was probably still busy doing the CSS Google shopping plan. So, because we're in Google business as usual. And I think you probably need somebody in the business whose job it is to go and find all the new, scary, interesting things and assess it. I think that's key, because it's what there'll be platforms that we'll be advertising on in the next few years that we don't even know exist. I'm for sure. There's one. This was one that I found interesting the other day. So I don't know if you've got a Samsung TV.
Yes, we have actually.
And you know, at the bottom, it puts your apps along the bottom on the new telly. Right, soon you're going to have ads in there. And the reason your TV's so cheap is Samsung are selling the real estate on your TV in your house. And right, that's why your TV's so cheap. So where's the opportunity in the Internet of Things, right? So advertisements in people's fridges. So advertisements on the petrol pumps. All these different forms of media. How are we going to monetize that? And I think they'll all end up into the programmatic space. But it's fascinating what's going to happen and how you can bid on all that media.
I'd just like to ask you about mergers and acquisitions very briefly, because you've been through a couple of bits and bobs. What's your take on that whole process?
This sounds like a loaded question.
It's not loaded at all. It's just there's loads of people talking about buying. There's loads of people talking about.
I'm in a very fortunate position as a business owner that we have an investment in equity in our business. So we have no debt. So I don't need to sell the business. And actually, I've got a view on this. And this is through some of the different deals I've been involved with, and also through some of the different agency sales and mergers that you see around, is actually, depending on what tends to happen is you get to your magic £1 million EBITDA, and then I was going to say a estate agency equivalent for agencies to come knocking on your door and go, we can get you £10 million and you can have that yacht. And everybody thinks that's what I've always wanted. And my personal view now, looking at it is, and I read, I don't know if you've ever written Drive by Daniel Pink.
Yeah.
Right, and then I've also read a lot of the Simon Sinek stuff, and a lot of it is, well, you need to understand your why, you need to understand, well, what are we actually doing this for? And I really genuinely want to enjoy the whole process of building this business and build a very profitable business that we can do interesting things with. So all our team get profit share, but nobody's got any equity, apart from me and our investor, right? Because the minute we give anybody any equity, that suggests we're going to sell the business. And then that creates false hope. And also you can go, well, we're going to sell the business, so actually I'm going to pay you 10 grand less because you've got these options. And actually these options aren't worth anything, but we're going to bootstrap it. And I think it sets it's this carrot. And I think if you look at some of the agencies that have sold, what happens is the original founders might sail off into the sunset or get pulled in or whatever. There's some earnout. Earnouts very rarely, there's very few I can name that smashed it, right? There's very few. Some people do, and fair play to them, or they get sold again during their earnout, which is an absolute result. But it's like, well, why not build a business that's hugely profitable, where you can pay yourself well, and you can pay your team well, and actually you can enjoy yourself, right? But I think there's become and I think this has been driven by the advisory market and the banks and the VCs, because they want to lend everybody this money. there's become this thing is you're not an entrepreneur unless you're doing deals and selling your business, right? It's almost like it's frowned upon to have a lifestyle business. But what if I've got an amazing lifestyle?
And what if you've got a really profitable business? So rather than going through the pain of selling it, you put a managing director in for 70 or 100,000 pounds a year. You remain the chairman. Come back 10 years later, the business is quintupled in size. You've been taking your money out because how much money do you need? And at a certain point, you've got enough. And as long as the business is giving you enough money to go on a holiday and buy another acoustic guitar or another motorbike or whatever it is. I mean, there's only so many houses you can buy. And I think that's really, really narrow in our thinking. The only way out is to sell.
Yeah, and I think there is a social entrepreneurial pressure. There's things like I'm a committee member of the Supper Club, and everybody's like, what's your exit plan?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about exit this, exit that, post exit. Let's do a big deal. And fair play to everybody's doing big deals and make your money. But it's like, well, what's wrong with building a highly profitable business that pays everybody well? Everybody gets a share of the action, and you pay yourself well as a shareholder. I think that sounds. It's like you look at businesses like Timson's, or look at businesses like JCB. There's some huge privately owned family businesses. Mercedes is a family-owned business, right? And it's like, well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. And there's a person I know who, we do the exit conversation with her, and she says, well, actually, if I look at what I earn each year and how I invest it in my property portfolio and how that grows, in 10 years' time, I'm going to have this property portfolio worth whatever it is, £3.5 million, and I'll have the business. So all you guys trying to quadruple the size of the business.
Yeah, I think the challenge an agency owner faces is they're thinking, well, as you said before, is the market going to change? Do I take the money off the table now? Do I de-risk my life? And also, it's hugely tax efficient with entrepreneurs relief.
Yeah.
It's the biggest chunk of change you're ever going to get. So there are lots of reasons to do it. But I know many agency owners who now regret selling because everything they built changed overnight. It then fell apart. Their clients left, their staff left, and actually, yeah, they did get some money, but they maybe didn't get the big check at the end as well. And I think some people look at it very differently. So yeah, I suppose that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, we've got no plans for an exit, and we're going to grow to be a profitable business and redistribute that wealth around our team.
Well, I think you've kind of answered my next question, which is what's next for John, or is there some more plans?
So we're going to build and launch this tech, Bosco. That's a big thing. And then I as we grow the business, I believe along will come other business opportunities, hopefully. But 110% focus on Modo25 and building our technology at the moment, and for the foreseeable future. But I suppose if you are making good profits, that gives you opportunities to then think about, well, let's invest in this, or is there some interesting other people? Because again, one interesting thing, so I don't know if you know, a lot of other agencies, well, you will know this, are acquiring smaller agencies actually for the people.
Yeah.
That's quite a clever thing to do, right? So if there's some top talent in another agency and you can do a deal in a way that actually you pay them over time and then they get their money. And I've seen lots of clever deals like that. But now at the moment we're focused on growing our business, delivering our software, sales. That's what we're focused on.
So if you look at your experience in different agencies and what you're doing now, I'd be really interested just to wrap up the interview. What would your top tips or your advice be to agency owner who's just sort of getting going or getting up to their 10th or 15th member of staff? What's your kind
I think you need to have full-time salespeople, and I think people find that a bit crass or a bit, well, we don't need salespeople. The leadership team will do the selling. And actually, I think even if it's not salespeople, it's outbound marketing. Whether that's cold calling, marketing campaigns, going to events. So we're taking stands, we're talking at events, we're doing loads of videos on LinkedIn. and we're being very vocal. I think you can't hide under a bushel. You've got to get out there, and you need somebody whose full-time job it is to bang that drum, as well as the founders and the owners. You need somebody just building the pipeline of opportunities, and I think that's definitely something that a lot of agencies think they don't need, because through their networks and through client referrals, they've got to where they've got to, and that's just going to carry on. Well, it won't. Right? You need to build your own pipeline and take control of your own destiny. So that, I'd say, is the biggest thing that people need to be doing. And invest in some good training. That's what they need to do.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, John. The time has just zapped by, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. John's links and contact details are on at the end. And just finally, one huge, great big thank you very much for being our guest. Thank you very much, John.
Well, no, thank you for having me, and have a lovely weekend.
And you. Thank you.